Day 1. Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy is the venue for the Nigel Pusinelli Trophy, and 47 solo sailors have made the journey down to one of England's prettiest locations. The Jurassic coastline reaches out east and west, million-year-old crustaceans coating the beaches. There are also some dinosaurs in generously large dinghy park, but also some younger faces: Jack Hopkins, Anthony Osman and Lawrence Creaser, to name just 3. The racing, despite a very unseasonal 16 degrees and an un-Weymouth-like 10 knots, was still ferocious. Such is one design racing. Race 1. The PRO set a rather port-biased line for Race 1, which resulted in a general recall and the hoisting of the black flag. Actually, I'm pretty sure the PROs across the UK assume this is our class flag, such as its inclusion in our start sequence. The wind was tracking left, but the start line and course remained the same angle, which resulted in a massively biased pin end and some last-second bailouts. Mike Sims timed his run to the line perfectly, nailing the pin end and tacking on the gun. Nick Bonner, Cliff Crawshaw and Jack Hopkins were also in the little pocket of glory as the fleet drag raced up to the top mark on port. Sims rounded Mark 1 ahead of GP World Champion Shane McCarthy, who had made the trip over from Ireland for the event. Jack Hopkins and Andy Fox followed close behind. Foxy, with Mark Lee, had spent Friday on the water under the supervision of coach Charlie Cumberley, and the improvement was immediate. Nigel Davis and Tim Law completed the top 6. The reaches tested the sailors' nerves and slow-pitch fibres as the fleet compressed. Davis moved into 4th, Law 5th, then Ian Hopwood and Nick Bonner. The breeze had tracked hard left, and with the top mark moved 30 degrees to the favoured westerly direction, the fleet set off in earnest. As your reporter, I'm trying to make the race sound enthralling, but even my artist licence has moral boundaries. The fleet completed the sausage triangle, and at the gun it was no surprise that Sims had held on for his first bullet of the event. Hopkins, all 73 kilograms of him, passed McCarthy for 2nd, and Tim Law snuck through for 4th from Cliff Crawshaw. Race 2. Another pin end favoured start under the black flag, and clean this time. If someone had nailed a transit, they could have started 10 boat lengths ahead in the middle of the line, such was the sag. Ian McGregor just squeezed past the pin at the gun, while Sims tacked immediately and drove over the majority of the fleet. Graham Williamson, David Greening, Cliff Crawshaw and Dave Mitchell were also in the start left camp. This proved game plan which would prove the right decision as the first beat played out. Sims rounded first. The Carsington sailor was putting the arduous early morning drive behind him and was stamping his authority on the event. Williamson and Andrew Wild were next around, with McCarthy, Greening, Fergus Barnum and Kev Gibbs, SEO, completing the top 7. Again, the reaches were unentertaining from a spectator's viewpoint, but I'm sure hearts were beating hard on board. Sims maintained his lead, with Wild breaking through Williamson at the bottom of leg 3. The last beat was pretty much 2-tack territory, the fleet heading left towards Portland Bill and tacking on the inevitable header. At the gun, the top 3 remained the same, with Greening, Hopkins, who had recovered well, and Barnum completing the top 6. Race 3. The PRO opted for the windward-leeward course for race 3, and this was largely welcomed by the fleet. Reaching legs in 6 knots are only fun if you are in an international moth or an American Cup cat. Pete Mitchell, who had been largely anonymous up till now, decided that the left would pay and took a narrow lead into the top mark. Pete's mood has swung further than race 1, leg 2 wind direction. Nick Bonner chuckled as he rounded in second, and Mark Lee, Hopkins and Dave Mitchell completed the first 5. There was plenty of action at the bottom where the fleet had a choice of leeward marks, pretty much a 50-50 split, with Pete Mitchell and Bonner leading the left, while Lee and Hopkins rolled the dice for the right. Sims, who had started near the committee boat and had rounded in the low teens, was making good gains on all points of sailing, but would not repeat his race 1 and 2 bullets. Mitchell held for a much-needed win and would go into tomorrow with race wins on his mind. Mark Lee stamped Cumberley's coaching skills with a second place, with Bonner 3rd, Sims 4th and Dave Mitchell 5th. So, with the overnight results, in care of the beautiful and ever-cheerful Sally, Mike Sims sits in top spot with 1-1-4 from the young and highly talented Jack Hopkins 2-5-6, who would be closer if not for slightly delayed turns following a port starboard incident. Andrew Wild is 3rd with a 12-2-12, Nick Bonner 4th, 6-12-3, and Shane McCarthy 5th, 3-7-19. Dave Mitchell is first veteran, 6th, 15th, 12-5. John Dixon, first Grandmaster, 14-26-25, and Van de Jowett, who finished 9th in race 3, is Our Lady.